Fiery right-wing populist Javier Milei wins Argentina's presidency and promises drastic changes. An orphaned teenager who was taken to Russia early in the Ukraine war is back home with relatives. Fires in Brazil threaten jaguars, houses and plants in the world's largest tropical wetlands. Today is Monday, November 20th, 2023. And this is the Dunkley Report. Right-wing populist Javier Milei will become the next president of Argentina after promising a dramatic shakeup to the state in a fiercely polarized election campaign held amid deep discontent over soaring inflation and rising poverty. With 99.4% of votes tallied in Sunday's presidential runoff, Milei had 55.7%, and Economy Minister Sergio Massa 44.2%, according to Argentina's electoral authority. It is the widest victory margin in a presidential race since Argentina's return of democracy in 1983. In his victory speech, the self-described anarcho-capitalist, who has been compared to former U.S. President Donald Trump, said, "The reconstruction of Argentina begins today." An orphaned Ukrainian teenager who was taken to Russia last year during the war in his country returned home on his 18th birthday. The head of the Ukrainian president's office confirmed that Bohdan Yermakin arrived back in Ukraine on Sunday and thanked UNICEF and Qatari negotiators for facilitating the young man's return. Yermakin's parents died 2 years ago. According to a Ukrainian lawyer, he lived with a cousin, who was his legal guardian before he was taken from the port city of Mariupol and placed with a foster family near Moscow. The lawyer had stressed that Yermakin needed to leave Russia before he turned 18 and became eligible for conscription into the army. In the first 2 weeks of November, fires fueled by unusually dry and hot weather destroyed nearly 770,000 hectares, 1.9 million acres, of the Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetlands. That's according to preliminary figures from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. This accounts for 65% of the damage done by fires in the region this year. The fire season usually ends in October. The Pantanal holds thousands of plant and animal species, and it abounds with jaguars, according to the World Wildlife Fund. During the rainy season, most of it is accessible only by boat and plane. In the dry season, wildlife enthusiasts flock to see the normally furtive jaguars lounging on riverbanks, along with macaws, caimans, and capybaras. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels have seized an Israeli-linked ship in a crucial Red Sea shipping route and taken the 25-member crew hostage. The rebels said they hijacked the ship Sunday over its connection to Israel. The group warned it would continue to target ships in international waters that were linked to or owned by Israelis until the end of Israel's campaign against Gaza's Hamas rulers. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said the crew members came from a range of countries, but that no Israelis had been on board the Bahamas-flagged Galaxy Leader. The Israeli military called the hijacking a very grave incident of global consequence. Pope Francis is hosting a special lunch for more than 1,000 poor people to mark the Catholic Church's World Day of the Poor. Among his guests Sunday are a community of trans women from a seaside town south of Rome who have forged a remarkable friendship with the pontiff. They have welcomed in particular his recent message of inclusivity to transgender people. The Vatican recently said trans people can be baptized and serve as godparents and witnesses at weddings. For the trans community of Torvajanica, it's just the latest gesture of inclusion from a pope who has made reaching out to the LGBTQ+ community a hallmark of his papacy. Thousands of families are lining up for free handouts at food banks across the Netherlands. The queues underscore how poverty is taking root even in lower middle-class families, and why tackling it has become a major theme in next Wednesday's parliamentary election. The cost of living crisis, a chronic shortage of social and affordable housing, and access to affordable health care have combined to become known by the catch-all title, Security of Existence, in election campaigning. It's a topic all parties are addressing in their election programs. The issue even cuts across traditional political lines, with parties on the left and right of center offering similar proposed solutions. Residents in the northern Mexican state of Sonora are battling a new train line that threatens to displace their homes and cut up the local ecosystem. But they have found very little to fight against. Local, state, and federal officials deny any knowledge or responsibility for the project. Meanwhile, construction started a few months ago and is steadily progressing towards Imuris, like the tourist Mayan train in southeast Mexico. The project is progressing with a strong military presence and little apparent concern for wildlife. Ecologists say the project threatens migration routes for jaguars, ocelots, and black bears. The World Health Organization says 31 premature babies in extremely critical condition have been evacuated from Gaza's largest hospital and will be transferred to Egypt for specialized care. More than 250 patients with severely infected wounds or other urgent conditions remain stranded at Shifa Hospital, days after Israeli forces entered the compound. Also, Sunday, Israel's army said it had discovered a tunnel under the hospital's 20-acre complex and shared security camera videos showing what it said were 2 foreign hostages taken into Shifa. It has long alleged that the Hamas militants ruling Gaza maintain a command post under Shifa. The new claims could not be verified. Survivors of Nazi atrocities have joined young Jewish activists in Paris to sound the alarm about resurgent anti-Semitic hate speech, graffiti, and abuse linked to the Israel-Hamas war. The impact of the conflict is drawing increasing concern in France and beyond. A few thousand pro-Palestinian and left-wing activists rallied in the French capital and in Britain on Saturday to call for a ceasefire, the latest of several such protests in major cities around the world since the war began. France has the largest Jewish population outside Israel and the U.S., and Western Europe's largest Muslim population. Holocaust survivors compared current sentiment to the lead-up to World War II. With the onset of the war between Israel and Hamas, the world's attention has swung away from the nearly 2-year-old conflict in Ukraine. In Washington, the war in Gaza consumes attention at the highest levels. European Union summits and other high-level global meetings now tend to focus on how to deal with the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Many Ukrainians say the world stopped paying attention to their war even before the outbreak of the conflict in the Middle East. Ukrainians fear that a combination of global fatigue, competing political agendas, and limited resources will result in less aid for their military, hurting the country's ability to sustain its confrontation with Russia. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the international news for Monday, November 20th, 2023. Thanks again for joining us here at the Dunkley Report.